the latest episode of the PCT podcast, we are delighted to be joined by Matt Ward. Matt is the owner and founder of Matt Ward Consulting and British Football Coaches Network. Unless you've been living under a rock, I'm pretty sure you'll know who Matt is and the great work he does for us. So without further ado, good afternoon, Matt. How are you today?
Hey, Martin. Good afternoon to yourself and everyone in the UK, and good evening to myself and anyone else in Asia who's listening. Mate, it's a pleasure to come on, and thank you so much for having me. We've been chatting for a while now, so it's really good to be able to talk to you and discuss about football, which makes it even better. And today, busy day, but very, very good, like most days, and really looking forward to the chat.
Stuff, but I mean, we have hopefully come out the other side of a lockdown now, both where you are and in the UK. How, before I get onto that, for those that might not be aware, can you just give us an insight to where you're at and what current roles you have?
Sure, yeah. So, for those of you, I don't know, who haven't read my book or listened to me going on about stuff, I'm no longer coaching by choice, but I'm still kind of involved in the football scene. I've recently left my general manager roles where I was working in China and Shanghai for coaching companies, and that made it kind of easier to come back to my home in Taiwan through the virus. So, it's been a busy past 3 or 4 years doing basically 3 or 4 different jobs at the same time, including my full-time general manager role. And now I've 100% committed to my own businesses, being my own boss, and loving it. I knew I was always going to end up here anyway, because that's why I'm really difficult to have as a staff member. And sometimes when that's the way, you're going to have to be your own boss one day. So I was kind of prepared for it, and now I'm dealing with my own stuff, concentrating on my consulting, recruiting side, and obviously the work I do with British Football Coaches Network. I'm back in Taiwan now, back home. My son's just started kindergarten school, so everything's looking good. Getting a little bit too hot now. The electricity bills a little bit more because the AC is on, the fan's on, but life's good, mate. And that's where I am right now.
I mean, it's great to hear things are going well for you, and hope the little one does well at kindergarten. As you mentioned there, owner of the British Football Coaches Network, where you offer many avenues support for British coaches, and now hopefully outside that lockdown, and a resume to play isn't too far away. What sort of trends are you seeing now on the other side of lockdown?
Yeah, really great question, mate. I mean, there's kind of two sides. There's the side I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from the UK, and then also the situation across the rest of the world, which, I don't know, people may or may not be in the know of. So I'll start off with the UK. Probably in the past week, this week, I've possibly had one-to-one consultations with maybe 16, 17 different coaches. And it's being really consistent where the pattern is, basically the same thing with regards to job seeking and opportunities. Now, I've been saying this for a while. Not many people will probably listen because they're thinking, Jesus, this guy's going on about it again and again. But I'm saying it because, look, I kind of see it from the outside, which helps me to see it from the inside more than people who are always inside too close up when it's happening. Also, I've got other interests in different areas, so I keep an eye on the global economics, and whether we like it or not, and it sounds boring even saying the word economics rules the world. It rules every industry. So when we're looking at the, without going into it too deeply, the virus rate and the way that football clubs, academies, football organizations are run and managed, we've been led into this is my opinion, it can't be fact, but we've been led, I feel, into a false sense of security. Now, for example, just for lockdown, for example, in the UK, are we locked down? Is it not? Are people free? Are people still dying or not? Are people working normally? Is it free? No, it's not. So it would be really naive to think that football clubs, knowing that they're really badly run at the best of times, are still all of a sudden going to reappear when everything's normal again. So we've seen a couple of casualties already. I know Bury was a little bit before. I think Macclesfield and a couple of others are going through hard times. I've been talking to people who are working for championship clubs, and then their mates working for another championship club who are basically in the shit. And as you know yourself, Martin, being inside the academy area in the UK, I mean, academies are being cut, age groups are being dropped, mentoring programs are being slashed or made extinct. And it would be really naive that we think that the industry is back to normal and the country is even back to normal. So, sorry, without going on too much about that, the common patterns I'm seeing now with regards to employment, for one, is clubs and organizations are being safer than ever. So we thought that it was the old boys club before, and it was who you know and what not you know, and not what you know before. Now it's going to become even worse if it hasn't already. And this is what I've seen through talking with the coaches the past 2 or 3 weeks now. Now, what really surprised me is even really well-experienced and well-qualified coaches, let's say, for example, an A-licensed coach with youth modules 1, 2, and 3, they're struggling to even be accepted through the doors for a voluntary gig, where they're saying, guys, I will come in and I'll just volunteer my time. And they're like, no, it's okay. Thanks, but no thanks. And this is really worrying. And it really shows that people are putting up the fence. You may be fortunate, you may have an existing contact or network, which is great. But in these times when clubs are slashing salaries, they're cutting corners, they're cutting costs, why would they take a chance on someone they don't know? And why would academy managers or head of coaching take a chance on someone who may take their job later when jobs are very scarce at the moment? And this, if people like it or not, if they think, that's rubbish, I've heard so-and-so down the pub, he got a job, that's great. But this is the consensus what I've had from over the month now, probably 48 to 50 coaches, and it's a scary pattern. And I hate sounding negative, but I hope, Martin, people who are listening, who may listen, kind of take a little bit of notice just to prepare themselves a little bit better.
I couldn't agree more with that. The statement of what you know, and it's not necessarily key. It's who you know, and I'm sure there's been many instances from the listeners who've done that. It sort of leads me on to a hot topic, really, that we want to discuss. You've seen it quite a lot. You offer support for coaches in the UK and British coaches abroad. Do you feel there's enough chances for British coaches in the UK to get to the top jobs? Sorry to go into the deep end just there.
yeah, deep. I mean, it is a hot topic, and I don't think it's ever going to go away, right? It's always going to be around. Ex-players are going to be complaining about non-ex-players. The guys what didn't play professionally are going to be complaining about the ex-players who have got the best coaching jobs. And okay, I'm going to sound negative again, but the thing is, sometimes when you're negative, you're just being realistic, and being realistic has a price. And yeah, I've got to be realistic now. And again, it's just my thoughts, my opinions. And when you look at how many top jobs there are available, so are we talking maybe Premier League and Championship, or Premier League top?
I'd say first team, EFL.
First team, yeah, first team roles. So, okay, even if we look at all the EFL and the Premier League, if you look at head coaching roles, even coaching staff roles, there's not many roles available versus how many coaches are wanting them roles. And come on, even if we're in U16s or U18s and we say, no, I love developing youth and everything, maybe you do, but you're not telling me that every single bone in your body isn't wanting a senior first team role with women or men team in the top flight, in a professional league. Everyone wants that deep down. There's a little bit of something there you want to see, maybe just to try, maybe because it may not be your ultimate passion or aim, but you want to see if you can make it there. You want to see the difference if you enjoy it as well. And when you look at the ratio of, let's say, if everyone came out their role now, off the top of my head, I'm dreadful at maths. I don't know how many positions would be available, but I'm guessing maybe 50 coaches minimum would fit into one position, and there isn't enough positions, and that's a minimum, maybe 100. And unfortunately, it gets even worse. And mate, sorry if you wanted me to come on and spread some kind of happiness around.
No, I mean, this is one of the reasons for speaking to a variation of people. You've got the experience and you've seen it, and look, we're all very good at dreaming and saying, I should have that role, I should do this role. But the reality is, you may never get that role. So
yeah,
we could prepare any listeners for the emotional and psychological roller coaster that is football, the better. And hence why I wanted to get somebody with your expertise on and your honesty, really.
Okay, great. Let's crack on then. So then we move on to the next step. The next step is coaches who are already in them positions who aren't getting certain top roles. Now, if we're talking to the extremes, probably the obvious one is Sean Dyche. Mm-hmm. So is Sean Dyche ever going to get chance at a top role? So he's thinking what a top role is for him. Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool, top roles. Spurs, whoever, whatever their perception is of a top role. Possibly not. So we're thinking that top managers, and let's face it, Sean Dyche is a top manager. I don't care what people say. He's a top manager. And managers like him are also top managers. If they're struggling to get these roles because they're not only facing the hundreds and hundreds of British coaches what are waiting for them roles, but all the coaches from the world, let's face it, it's the world. If Crew Alexandra had the chance to bring in Lopez Matario from Argentina or somewhere, instead of Steve Hodges, who's won the non-league title in the conference, they're bringing in Rosario, or whatever I named him. They're bringing him straight in because he's sexy. It's cool. And it sounds very old-fashioned now to keep mentioning that, but it's just reality. So now we're stepping back again. Not only are we fighting for them little 50 or 100 positions, we're fighting against managers or coaches who are already in that position, lower down the pyramid perhaps. Then we're fighting against in imports coming from other countries. And then coaches are against ex-players. And I'm not against, because we're all the same, we're all coaches, but ex-players are notoriously known to have a little bit of a fast track. Now, that's no slant on ex-players. Everyone needs that knowledge, and they've got more knowledge than anyone about dressing rooms, about the game, about how it's run. But if we're talking myself as a crap non-league reserve team player, that's what you're up against if you're being realistic. So from this, you're thinking, well, I might as well give up. Well, no, you shouldn't. If you give up, then you're out of the game. If you don't give up, you've got to find a niche for yourself. I'm thinking, look, not that I will and I won't do for numerous reasons, but if I ever came to the UK to actually try and get into the coaching pyramid and start a career there, I think, right, you either got to be really, really good. You got to know your stuff inside and out. Your knowledge has got to be your power. Has to be top-notch knowledge. Even if nobody likes you, they respect you because you know what you're talking about and they will follow you. Then you've got to be an absolute bastard and so driven that no one can beat you. And literally everything you do is spot on. And that's how it's got to be. No one's going to be better than you. Regardless of people already better than you, no one will going to climb above you in that ladder. Then you've got to have a personality, some kind of charisma, and some kind of sense of humor, right? If you go there, if you go into a club, you could be the best coach ever, the best manager ever, but you only get so far with what you know. So the first thing about your knowledge, you also need to be able to put that into players to make them want to follow you, to make them believe in what you say is going to make them better, get them a better contract, or get them a better move. So they're going to go and do the stuff for you. And no matter how good you are as a manager, as a coach, you know, if you haven't got that extra spark, I know everyone talks about Mourinho now, they're all buzzing about him because of the Spurs documentary. He never turned into a bad manager. Oh, he's lost his management skills. No, he hasn't. You know, maybe sometimes he's just thinking, you know what, I'm tired of this. You know, these players are on their phones all day or that. They're not listening to that. And he's big enough now, he doesn't care. So, yeah, there's a few things you can do yourself to get in the mix. But whatever you do, you can't go in like a bull in a china shop, as I imagine I would have done years ago in a professional club academy and think that I'm the best thing ever. And be so arrogant or think, no, I'm doing it the right way. That's terrible. Because there's a lot of coaches out there what do that. You can't talk with them. You can't reason with them. And they don't take on other people's opinion. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be staying at the same age group. So you've got to be flexible and just never, ever give up. Even when you think it's enough, just keep pushing on. And it's not impossible. It's still possible to do it. But realistically, these are the barriers. These are the things you've got in front of you, which you have to find your own unique way to bypass. All the managers, all the coaches, all the ex-players, all the international coaches coming in, it's up to you to do what you can to concentrate on yourself, bypass it all, and get the best from you to get the best for you.
No, I think it hits home, and I know we've had chats off air and via social media about these opportunities. I mean, talking about those opportunities, one of the more recent success stories that we speak about is Graham Potter, who built a very good reputation overseas before landing a bigger job back home. How vital would you say it is for a coach to step outside of that comfort zone to further their development?
This leads on nicely, right? Yeah, so obviously people may know, but I'm not sure if everyone does, that Graham Potter used to be a player, but you don't, depending on your age and kind of region, you don't really think straight away, oh yeah, but he's a former player. Well, he was, but when you talk about Graham Potter in a coaching sense, with respect, in the UK, he's not a big name coach. He's literally, and anyone who's looked through his background and experience, he's forged this himself. He's grinded this out himself. And by kind of stepping out of the box, it allows you to see the bigger picture more. It sounds really basic. To see the bigger picture, you've got to step outside and look within. And again, this is just my opinion. I think going away and literally learning the trade away from the UK and Scandinavia, from what I hear and from the British coaches, what have been out there and are out there now, it's a really good space to actually develop yourself as a coach, to get noticed, and also to look from outside within and start thinking, okay, you know what? In a couple of years, I may want to be going back to the UK. What do I have to do to get back into a role in England? Now, maybe Graham Potter's thinking, right, I need to start rekindling some previous contacts, which I haven't talked to for years. Some old players I used to play against, some old coaches. Maybe he's thinking, I need to get a European tie against one of the top teams in England, and we need to go all out and beat them. What happens? I don't know, by consequence or luck, well, all of a sudden, everyone's talking about Graham Potter now. So maybe this gave him, and this kind of stepping outside the box gives you that bit of time, especially abroad, to have a look around, to actually think, what boxes do I need to tick if I do want to attack the UK and get a job in there? And I'm going to have the time, the space to actually keep doing my job, getting the results, but also prepare myself for the next move back home if I want to do it. And, you know, look, you've got to be, again, I say this, I haven't worked professionally at a professional club in the UK, but it's common sense. If you want to climb to a direction, you've got to be on the ladder, what's already pointing to that direction. If you're not, and you're on a different direction, well, it's going to take you even longer. So if your end ambition is going to be a first team senior coach, male or female, then get on that ladder. If you know already, some people are like, oh yeah, I want to try and get a holistic approach to all ages. Great, no worries. But if you want to be a national team coach or a senior coach, and you've been at U13 level for 10 or 15 years, well, guess what? It's going to take even longer to then build yourself up to that senior role. And someone who's already had 10 or 15 years in the senior role is going to get there quicker than you. And that should be common sense. And I know there's different routes and different turns of fortune about it, but that would be one sensible thing to do if you're following your dreams or your hopes. Get on that ladder, the ladder what leads to where you want to go.
I'm going to use that as a little quote for when we publish this. That ladder where you want to go. Matt,
I'm going to write that down as well. I'm writing it down.
I'll get it wrote down for us. You've got a wealth of experience of coaching overseas. You mentioned there that you've not had a role in particular in the UK. You've had roles in Ghana, Taiwan, and China, to name but a few. Talk to us a little bit about some of those roles and the different experiences.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, right? Because I talk a lot about football and career pathways and everything, and all I was an amateur coach in the UK. But I guess now, stepping outside of the UK, it's now allowed me to see what's going on globally, and also take more notice of the UK than if I was inside it. I'll be honest, if I was coaching in the UK now, I'd be like really disheartened and thinking, shit, what do you have to do? And everyone's ready to beat you down. Everyone's ready to turn on you when you think they're your mate and everything. There's a role there. No worries, I'll get you in. Then it's gone. Who can you trust nowadays? You've got to be very, very careful with your football friends in speech marks. And that's why I don't have many friends, but I like to have people who are good to chat to and trustworthy. But in terms of, abroad, I'll start with experiences. The first thing I really noticed was it's not really about football and what you're doing in the training. It's more about dealing with the external factors and what you can't control. And I guess, luckily for me, I've got a background in management, in fitness management, being in the military as yourself, Martin. You got to manage people, you got to work with people, and you get a good sense of how things really are. I guess like a bullshit detector, right? Now, even when we know that we're being BS'd, nowadays people are too nice and just agree and nod and shake heads or whatever. Well, why? Why are you agreeing? If you don't agree with something, don't agree. And this is one thing that I've kind of had to be flexible to abroad, but also become stronger and a stronger person, a stronger character, and say when I'm not happy with something, say when I don't agree with something. So more so than not, abroad, it's about dealing with the environment, with the external factors you can't control, and making it work the best for you. And that's really, it's helped me to grow as a person, to grow in the football industry, but also I've learned from the different people I've worked with and worked for in the different positions. So, for example, in Taiwan, I was a head coach. Great. I'm the big boss. Everyone listens to every single word. Excellent. And sometimes you're thinking, you know what? Someone challenged me. I want someone to say I'm wrong or challenge me. You get it now and then, but you need it more for your benefit. You need to be kind of put right sometimes, or to see that you're wrong. And especially as a younger coach or a less experienced coach, I needed that in the early days. So when I went to the Philippines as the top tier of the Philippines as assistant coach, assistant manager or whatever, it was difficult for me because I've come from being the big boss where everything I say goes to then having to sit and listen to things I don't normally or perhaps not agree with, but trying to be supportive of it. And at the same time, maybe not being given the chance to put any influence onto things as well. But also along that path, I learned that, at the time I was probably too young to be an assistant manager coming from a manager. And I failed to be a good bridge between the gap of the players and the head coach. And instead of backing up the head coach and getting too annoyed by not having enough input, I went with the players a lot, and I didn't back my staff, I didn't back the managers. But, that was a big learning curve. But from that, that's when I really started to see that football in Asia, especially, the environmental factors, if you don't manage them, will kill you. Stress, health, whatever, job-wise. And the gaffer at the time, Simon McMenemy, was great. And he said early on, but of course I was thinking, no, it's not like that. He said, mate, you can't control the uncontrollables. Just worry about what you can control. That's it. And you'll hear a lot of people say that, but it's 100% truth. Just focus on what you can do the best to your ability and let everything else kind of run by, and don't really get too bogged down by it. And he was right. Later on in life, in football in Asia, he was right, true to his word. So my experiences as an assistant manager in Philippines was tough. But when I look back now, really, really valuable. I would do things a lot differently as I did as an assistant. I learned a lot how to be in a professional club as well. So Taiwan wasn't professional, went into a professional environment. And then China, again, I moved from the Philippines to China to the second tier. So Shanghai Shenzhen were an ex-Super League club, what just got relegated. I went in there as an assistant, and this time I realized my mistakes. I was more quiet, and I was around Gary White, Louis Lancaster, both pro-licensed coaches, and I learned huge amounts from them. And you know what? My role wasn't huge. I did the analysis. I picked up cones. I ran the line. I refereed sometimes. I did some one-on-one training with the players, and I learned so much from it. And the difference from my time in the Philippines to China, it was only a space of a year and a half, but it feels like 10 years away. So much experience was gained as a coach there. And it really helps to reflect. And then leading on from that, learning from these two guys, great experiences. I went on to Ghana, and Ghana, I went in as a head coach, and there I was luckily, everyone's dream. I was like the manager of the club. So yes, I had team managers for logistics and everything, but everything was my saying. Hey, look, we need a swimming pool for the cool down session after the game the next day. Get it booked. Great. Hey, are the buses ready for our away match? Yeah, great. Okay. You're managing everything. It's everyone's dream. And that threw up a whole new load of challenges, absolutely being responsible for the players, the results, and the management of the club as well. But I love that. And unfortunately it left on a sour note. But all good experiences, and all of them experiences together, I can look back and say I made big mistakes in all roles, but also I've learned from each mistake and got better. And if I did want to go back into a coaching role, a head coach role, I feel really confident in doing so. I'll still make mistakes, bad calls, but I'll be happy with what I've gained from my experiences abroad. Has now made me strong enough to deal with internal, but also all the unwanted external factors going on. Whether or not we like it, it's always going to be there, mate. So sorry to go on a bit long there, but yeah, that's what I found working abroad. Very valuable, and it's made me a better person, better educator, better coach.
I mean, one of the things, my pen's on fire again, but one of the things that I noticed here was that you mentioned that you were too young to be an assistant manager. How important then has reflection been for you, and being open and as honest and as humble as you have been to say, do you know what, I've made mistakes, I wasn't ready?
Yeah, it sounds contradictory, right? But I found it easier being a younger head coach and manager than the assistant manager, because I think I needed more maturity. Whereas when the manager, you don't really have to explain yourself too much. And the assistant manager, I needed the maturity to deal with people above me and below me as well. And reflecting, I have regrets about my time in the Philippines for sure. And even thinking I was in my 30s, so immature. Some of my decisions, my attitude, so immature. And if I took that attitude anywhere else, I would have been fired. I mean, I'm lucky really that the gaffer didn't really get rid of me. And reflecting back, that's something now which helped me in Ghana when I was the manager, but also, as I said, when I went into another assistant role in China as well. And that's why it really helped me to grow up. Just my time in the Philippines helped me to grow up as a coach, but also as a part of the staff as well. And I think that's something which British coaches and British, Irish, Northern Irish coaches especially need to take on board. We may feel that we're the best thing ever since sliced bread, if that's even a saying anymore. I know that's an old-fashioned saying, right? And we're so arrogant because we get confused by the term of believe in yourself, but being a bit of a dick. And you know, I've crossed paths with a lot of coaches now which believe in themselves, being humble, but also they're just so far out of their head that they're not on this planet and they're never going to progress in the industry because they may be a great coach, but they're just not on this planet. And reflection in them terms is you might not like what you see. And if you're not mature enough to reflect and you ain't got the time to sit down and actually think, you know what, I was wrong there, they was right, or I did this wrong. You know, this is why I'm not liked. This is why they didn't like me. If you can't do that, if you're not adult enough to do that, you need a few more years in any industry to get used to it, because you can't progress and develop yourself and allow others to develop you until you self-reflect. Because if you haven't, you won't allow anyone to say, that wasn't a good session, maybe improve this. Yes, it was. What you talk, you know, we're not at that mindset yet until you actually realize what you're not that good at and you accept it. And now, even all the management roles I've had, football and non-football, I've been comfortable with myself. And if I'm not good at that, I'll make sure someone who is good is doing it. Or I'm just myself, because you can't act. It's so energy zapping to not be yourself. If you're yourself, you can be yourself all day long, 24/7. If you're acting and you're not the real you, you can't maintain it. You might maintain it for 6 months, maybe a year, you might blag it, but people will start to see the falseness and the cracks. So you've got to be at a stage where you're either comfortable with your deficiencies or comfortable with yourself and your ability, that you've got people around you who are better than you at certain things. It's okay.
I think, you know, we speak about on the English system through the mentoring scheme, the plan, do, review stuff. And, you know, the review and reflection can be something we can quite easily skim over. What you've mentioned there, for us to be able to identify our flaws as such will only help with our growth, which it sort of leads me on to maybe a bit more of a personal question. Is comfortable in the fitness industry, managing people in the UK. Why move abroad? Why go overseas to take on these roles?
I was always unsettled in the UK, always unsettled. I always, you know what, people say, excuse me, oh, why was you unsettled? Well, because I was what did my mum call me once? Walter Mitty. And I don't know, yeah. And I think we know what it means. And maybe, I don't know, depending on the age of some people, I think there's a movie with Ben Stiller. Walter Mitty was a dreamer, right? So it's about dreaming. It's about like not being really realistic. So yeah, I've always been a dreamer. Even from the young age, I've just seen myself abroad in different environments, around a different culture, different language, different people, getting different girlfriends, going into different jobs, and all of this. And it's always been in me. So when I joined the Air Force, I had a chance to do a bit of traveling. Not what they sold me, but I did a bit of traveling. It's always like, yeah, you're going to go and see this place and that place. And then you go there and no, you're in a tent in the desert in Kuwait. Okay, great. But still, I had that taste. And I was fortunate enough to have a great family around me. My parents always took me abroad when I was young, and I grew up going abroad for vacations, on holidays. And that's what I wanted. I never saw myself settling in England. So through the UK, through my management jobs, I just wanted to deal with different people. It sounds bad, but I kind of saw that the environment in England wasn't for me. And I kind of, I'm trying to put it in the right way, but I grew out of it. I grew out of the locality of going into the high street and seeing the same people sat in the same chair, and people in Weatherspoon still. I still love it when I go back, and you know, that's what builds communities for sure. But just for me personally, like I wanted to grab something more. I was still dreaming. I thought there was something bigger out there for me. And you know what? Because I was dreaming it, I was visualizing it. It happened in when I worked in Abu Dhabi as a fitness coach. I was working with one of the royal princes of Abu Dhabi. He then offered me a full-time job, which I declined. After I declined it, his assistant called me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" I was only 23 at the time. She said, "No one declines any offer from any member of the royal family of the UAE." I'm like, "Well, sorry, I just feel like going home for a bit." And but looking back, you know, because I've been dreaming of something like that. I've been dreaming of mixing in these circles and just putting myself out there and pushing myself from living in a little village with about 400 people to not having, you know, any money or no education, to really pushing myself to the limit and saying, you know what can you achieve? Go and chase it. Go and see what you can do. And I just felt that in the UK, it wasn't going to offer me that. And that's why going abroad, yeah, it started that. And I was able to kind of reinvent myself again, which isn't always a bad thing. And yeah, I'm enjoying, or I've enjoyed the new me better than I did the UK version of me. That's for sure.
Intriguing insight into sort of the way that you think and the reasons why. For me, then, what were the major hurdles? Obviously, you mentioned there a bit of comfort in the UK, out dream it, outgrow it. Was moving overseas what you imagined? And if so, what were the hurdles?
Yeah, it was pretty much what I imagined. I was a bit, well, what should I say, 9 or 10 years younger then, so I was a bit more kind of energetic and relaxed. But I'm getting more relaxed now. But it's as I was imagined, very tasking. Everything was a challenge, but it excited me. So, for example, if I was in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, one time when I was fitness coaching, I went to the wrong location. And instead of kind of being annoyed about it and everything, I just ran to the next location. The humidity is dreadful. It's literally, I don't know, 98 degrees, 100 degrees. By then, or back in them days, I wasn't really using Google Maps or anything. I was using a bit of a map, and it took me like 2 hours. I think I lost about 2 stone in body weight, but that's the kind of, that was my attitude when I first moved abroad. I was like, okay, wrong food, no problem. Wrong location, no problem. Wrong language, I don't know. I broke the law there. I won't do it again. Sorry. So there was a lot of hurdles, being that maybe I took things for granted because of my excitement of exploring new adventures. Maybe I wasn't as respectful as I should have been, which I've learned now. Obviously, being immersed now, having a Taiwanese wife and a son here as well, and being accepted as not as a local, but you know, being accepted as a person of the community. And one of the hurdles would have been, yeah, to think that, and this may, I'm not afraid to say this because this could be a good lesson for people moving abroad or going abroad. I thought that being British, I was better than other people in their country, which is a crazy idea. Who's better than someone in their own country? In the UAE, if you go to the Middle East, you're not the richest, you're not the bravest, you're not the biggest, the fastest, the tallest, you're not the best. If you go to Asia, everyone thinks, oh, Thailand, all small and everything, or China. No, you're not going to be the best. We have to realize that when you go to a new country or new culture, you have to really strip everything back and start from fresh and create yourself. And that's one thing which was difficult for me at first, to think, oh, hold on, I'm not really as good as I thought I was because I'm the new guy in town. And that was up to me to do that. And of course, the normal things are languages and just getting used to the customs, where maybe you don't agree with something, but that's how it is. You can't fight it. You can't change it. And even now, I foul to that in Ghana. I tried to change the country and I failed. Yeah, you got to go with the flow, literally. Change what you can, change yourself and adapt. But don't try and save the country and change the people, because it's their country and it's they're who they are.
I think that leads me nicely onto sort of the next question of how important is it to not only embrace the culture, but respect it when coaching overseas?
Over 100%. If you don't, then even if you're speaking fully the language of the country you're living in, you're still not 100% one of them. Even if you know every bit of history, every bit of knowledge, you like to eat the same foods, you drink with them, you're not one of them, and you'll never be treated or accepted as one of them. Face value, yes. Behind the backs, no. So when you take that into consideration, you've really got to do everything you can to immerse yourself into the culture. And you know what? No one's going to be able to do it fully. No one's going to be able to do it even up to 50%, but it's making the effort. It's showing that you're letting your guard down, and your arrogance or your ego isn't so much that you're not willing to adapt to where you're living. And I always, even now, my Chinese should be better than it is, my Mandarin. And when I go into a shop, I will always try and speak Mandarin, because if someone, let's say a foreigner came into the UK, we're a shop owner. Let's say I'm working at Tesco at the checkout, and someone came to me in a language I didn't understand, trying to talk to me. I'll be like, "Go on, mate, what are you talking about?" No way do I know that language working in Tesco's. And that's how people feel abroad. Why should they know English? We're privileged if they do know English. So it's so important just to show that you're trying. Or if you want to build relationships, get to know the localities, get to know the culture, get to know what makes, if we're talking in the sense of football, what makes players tick. Learn about the bank holidays, learn about who they worship, who they don't worship, and try and strike up some neutral conversation around that. And it goes a long way. So in terms of building relationships, you got to go all in if you really, really want to make the most out of it. And when you talk to people like Stephen Constantine from India and 5 other countries, and Steve Darby, which is a legend of Asia, they'll say the same thing. And I've listened to what these guys say so much. And if I'm ever going into a job in another country, I'll definitely try to fully immerse myself in the whole culture. Absolutely.
We know that coaching at any level is a time-consuming entity. How did you not only find the time, but also the energy to build something as big as British Football Coaches Network? And where did the idea come from?
Mate, I in real life, realistically, I didn't have the time or energy. It's just my makeup. This is what I did. So I started the British Football Coaches Network when I was just working in an academy in China, in Chengdu. And it wasn't even meant to end up how it's evolved. It was just meant to be trying to help out coaches through articles, get some exposure, get their names out there. And then it grew and grew. And when I lost my job in China, when we found out we wasn't getting renewed our contracts on Twitter before Christmas, and my son was also born, so I was staying up doing a night shift duty with my son till 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, and I just started working on it. And everyone was laughing at me. My family was saying, "What are you doing? You're wasting your time. What are you up to?" And I'm like, no, this is what I'm really passionate about. And I was on the treadmill one day, and I was listening to a podcast, and they had a few pundits on talking, saying, the British coaches, they're going to be better off if they get some experience abroad and that. There's no one abroad. There's Steve Coppell out there. McLaren's gone out there. I'm thinking, are you having a laugh? seriously, are you guys having a laugh? And it annoyed me so much. It actually annoyed me to the point of where, like, I smashed the treadmill up. I was doing interval sprints. I'm like, this is dreadful, right? And I know that they're thinking about big name coaches, big name managers. But the thing is, as we know now, there's hundreds and hundreds of coaches abroad. So when they're saying that without professionals on air, pundits, without doing their due diligence, they're forgetting about the managers, British managers, who they didn't mention, who have been and coached in World Cup qualifiers, who are in national teams, who are coaching in top tier leagues in different countries, who are winning league titles, who are playing in the AFC Champions League. Not playing, coaching. How can you not mention guys like these? It's lazy. And I thought, you know what? I might make a tiny ant-sized ripple in this massive ocean, but I'm just going to start it. And that's where it started from. And as it continued, mate, I was working full-time jobs as a general manager. I don't know if anyone's been a general manager before, but you're literally 24/7. You're doing everything. It's uncontrollable. And I was still doing it next to that. And yeah, I didn't sleep very much, and it was really, really, really intense. But that's what I was passionate about. And I knew, like I said right at the beginning, one day when I want to fully go into doing what I'm passionate about, then I'm going to do it, and it's going to be, the foundation will be there. And my passion for helping people as a coach, as a teacher, a fitness tutor, whatever, it's always been there. A manager, a people person, and that's just taken over now. And I'm just really in a good place with what I'm doing.
The work you do, Matt, is superb, and I think, I'm not going to say all, but the majority of British coaches who are part of that network are very grateful for your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I know, the people who probably see me pop up on the social media or whatever, I don't know. Some probably like me, some probably don't. But I'm only interested in helping the people what want to be helped, those who want a bit of a direction. And British Football Coaches Network or not, it doesn't matter. I just enjoy helping people. But one thing I will say, as I've got the opportunity, is I actually really care about this. Whereas I know others in the same kind of areas, they're all about just printing the money and getting members and doing this and the numbers, which I'd rather have less, but have more satisfaction about what I'm doing. So, this is why I can carry on. And I just love talking to people like yourself, people who are real, who are honest, and that's what keeps me going every day. So can't beat it. Long live British Football Coaches Network.
Well, that sort of poses the question then, Matt. You were successful in your coaching roles, and you admitted there you enjoyed them. Why move away from all of that, support other coaches, some of which, and I would say the majority, you've never met?
Yeah. So why to leave coaching roles? I mean, from where I was in coaching, which was zero, with some kind of local village amateur side, to, let's face it, being, without sounding like a bit of a dick, getting paid decent money in China, abroad, without really doing a lot or being a big name. Why does anyone walk away from that? And my big thing was, mate, I fell in love with the game late, as in coaching, but I fell out of love with it again because you can't control a lot of the things what's happening in football at the highest levels, at any level, but at the highest levels, when your career is based on results, when your bonuses, what you send home to your family, is based on results, is taken out of your power, you got no control over it. And look, we're all different characters. Me, I wear my heart on the sleeve. If something isn't real or fake, it doesn't matter if I get paid £1 million a week. If I'm not comfortable with what's going on around me, or the way things are being fixed, or the way things are happening or whatnot, I don't want to be part of it. And unfortunately, the higher levels I kind of was involved with clubs, the more I found out about the game. And although it's happening everywhere in the world, it's not something I could rely on at the moment. Now, yes, maybe if I had different intentions, I could turn a blind eye and just take the money and get the fame or whatever. Not that I was getting any fame, but just continue with that. But with me, it doesn't sit right because you're with your players. You're developing your players, getting them ready to get a result, which then shows how good you are doing in your job. So when the result is already decided before game day, what's the point in doing anything? Now, I'm big on time. The thing what scares me the most about life is time. You can't get time back. And when you're doing something which is pointless, there is no point. I'd rather be doing something else which I'm happy doing. So why would you fly 5 hours to play an away game on a plane knowing that you've already lost? Why would anyone do that? Oh, because I want to be a football coach. Well, I'd rather be a factory worker and do 100 bog rolls in an hour and have some pride in that because I did that. So that's why I stepped away. And although I get the itch, I miss the competitiveness of being on the sideline. It's like war. It's literally like being in the military again, like you're fighting for every inch. You're fighting for your own self-respect, your own person. I miss that. But at the same time, I don't miss the BS which football is based on. And it's a shame. It's not so much about football anymore. It's about business and power and greed. And that's why I stepped away. And and again, that helps me trying to guide people when I can into the right directions or tell them what's real and what's not.
No, it's very, I'm going to say self-aware, really, to be able to say, look, and take that step. I'm massively admire for that, Matt. And just before, I'm not going to say infamous, and I say it on every podcast because it's not quick fire at all, and put you on the spot a little bit. But my last sort of question to pose to you and the listeners is, one of the major bugbears for a lot of coaches is the jobs for the lads and ex-pros seemingly walking into roles and who you know. What advice would you give to any coach chasing a dream of going into football full-time?
First of all, although we know the majority is jobs for the lads or the girls, the first point is you got to pretend that it's not. And you've got to clean that out of your head, because if you've got that attitude, then you're never going to get anywhere. The second point is you got to focus on yourself. Don't worry about what A, B, or C are doing. Don't worry about what D, E, or F are doing over there. Worry about you. Do what's best for you, and be a little bit selfish sometimes. I don't mean go around stabbing people in the back, because football is a big industry, but a very small community. You'll get found out. And you still got to be a good person, but you got to take care of number one, because no one else is looking out for you. That's for sure. Also, you got to really, again, to mention again, self-reflection. You got to look at yourself and be honest with yourself. Is my CV really good enough? Am I good enough for this role? Have I done the right qualifications? Have I got the right experiences? Have I built the right contacts for networking? If we're complaining that it's all about the people you know, and you're complaining that you don't know them people, well, what do you think you have to do? And you're not going to know people. You may be able to know people, but you're not going to strike up a relationship with people if you got the wrong attitude. It's all about attitude. Building connections is all about attitude. It's the same, even if you've already got a network because you're a big name. If your attitude's crap, you're not going to build your network any bigger in the right areas. You could be an ex-pro, a big name coach, or whatever. You're not going to build the right connections in the right areas. So if you're not a big name coach or former player, you got to be 100% better at connecting and networking. And being bog standard, like you're on a dating website, hello, how are you? It's just not going to cut it. Have you got anything going in China? No, that's not good enough. Like, we need to really, really look deep inside now and think, right, bring it all back. We're on level 1. What do I need to do to get to level 2? I need to talk to A, B, and C. Then go out and talk to them the right way. I need to volunteer myself here. We'll go out and do that. We can't complain that you're not getting a role somewhere if you're not ready for it, if you're not prepared for it. And that's up to us. But at the same time, we've really got to focus on ourselves. And probably one of the most important things I've learned is, and I'm not afraid to kind of put it out there or even act it, and people say, oh, you didn't reply to me or whatever. It's don't feel like you have to have people what bring you down or negative people around you in your circles. And don't feel like you have to give all your time to these people either. First of all, if they've shown you no reason to give something to them, you don't have to give. That's it. You need to focus all your energy and time on people that you want to actually give time and energy to. And then in turn, maybe you'll get something back later. Maybe. You know, we don't guarantee it's going to come back the next day. Maybe never. But you put yourself in a better chance of getting something back later, like karma, if you're doing something good for good people. So you've got to be the best person you've got to be, or you can be. You've got to get yourself into the right situations and make sure that your experience and qualifications back up your ambition.
Love that. Love that. Apologies, that sort of thrown me back as I go through my journey and where I'm at and all the things I've probably done wrong in the past to get where I am. This is one of my favourite moments of the podcast, Matt. I get to put you on the spot a little bit and you know, hopefully get a little bit of a deeper insight into Matt Ward. So what's your biggest moment in football to date? Sorry, your best moment in football to date?
Oh, is this like was the last one a quick fire question? Because I did really bad at that.
No, I should have let you know, shouldn't I? Really? So, yeah, this is not the quick fire.
I'm really bad at these. Okay, right. Let's go now. Let's start fresh. Go.
Best moment in football to date.
It was the last second goal we scored in Taiwan to qualify for the Taiwan Premier League. It was literally, we were screwed over by match fixing and the second qualify with a draw.
Wow. Best or biggest wow moment to date?
Biggest wow moment was beating and destroying Wuhan Zol away 3-1, who was managed by Kiro Ferrara, the ex-Juventus centre-back and manager, and his backroom staff of former Capello England coaches. And we went there and we beat them 3-1. And I thought, there you go, lads. I'm from amateur football and you guys are from England.
Love that. Best friend in football?
I don't think I have many. Look, I got some guys to talk with. James McAloon, I do podcasts with. We're very good football friends. Louis Lancaster's a very good person for me. We keep in touch when he's got time, and I've got a lot of time for him, and he's helped me so much in life as well. So if I'm going to say two people, I say them. Sorry to anyone else who I've left out. And if you want to be my friend, they can be my friend.
Who's been your toughest opponent?
I can't say any players because my level was shocking. Apart from the guy what made me quit football, the former, 15, 16 years ago, the former striker from Dover Athletic, what came to play in the reserves against me for Ramsgate reserves because he was coming back from injury. I didn't like that. But the toughest player, which one of my teams have kind of played against, would be in China for Shanghai Shenzhen. And it would be Fabiano, the ex-Seville striker. Now, Fabiano, I think he's probably the second highest goal scoring striker for Brazil in the 21st century, whatever century on, yeah. So he's probably, at the time, he was 36. Fabiano, bald head, shaved, and you're thinking he's an old man. And you know what? He played for Cannavaro's team, Tianjin Quanjin. They got promoted, but we beat them anyway. And Fabiano's there, chest out, and he's just agitating everyone. and he put them one up. He scored a bullet header from 15 yards out, and you're like, Jesus. And the ball stuck to him. Fabiano's never been like a Brazilian Ronaldo or anything, but the ball just stuck to him, and you couldn't get it off him. He was horrible. He was nasty, and he had that winner's mentality. And you think, Jesus, you can't beat this guy. But our lads stuck to the game plan. They irritated him. He nearly got sent off, and we ended up beating him. But yeah, Fabiano, ex-Sevillan Brazilian international.
Who's been the best trainer? So best trainer you've coached?
Best trainer. Oh. Well, I would say all of the lads in Ghana were the best trainers for me. They were like machines, and they shouldn't have been. And I'm like, lads, if you just got a bit of structure to your game, which I tried to give them, amazing. And this is what really hurts me about African football. The amount of talent there is scary. And they're just lacking the structure and the belief and the proper coaching. But one player which did really surprise me was when we did a fitness session again in China, Brazilian player, Davi. Now, Davi played under Sven-Goran Eriksson for a few years in China. He was at, I think, Sao Paulo or Corinthians, however you pronounce the big name in Brazil, or even Santos, one of the big Brazilian teams. And again, like Fabiano, 35, 36, coming to the end of his career, but amazing. Proper player. Now, we had a fitness session. All of the players were blowing out their ass, and Davi, who had probably been up dancing until 5 a.m., probably 7 a.m., because I used to go into the bedroom sometimes, and the two Brazilians are sat there with dark shades on, having a shower, eating chewing gum. And he did his fitness session, and he's lapping people. It's like a circuit. And he wasn't even putting in full effort. And you saw then the difference between the really good Chinese players, not Super League players, but the lower down ones, and actually someone who's played at an immense level. And that was him. He just blasted them. Amazing.
Biggest role model or influence in football?
For me, really, what's changed my outlook as a coach and how I deal with myself, and as a person and as a coach, if I went back to coaching, I mentioned him already, Louis Lancaster. For me, top bloke. We still get on well, unless something has happened between now and last time we spoke. But no, yeah, Louis has been tremendous to me, and he's someone I can turn to in times of need, and if I need any help with development in coaching whatsoever. Top bloke.
This has probably been the most difficult one for the previous guest. Is describe yourself in 3 words.
I know myself really well. It's took me a few years, but I know myself really well. Hence why I'm separated from my wife. She knows me as well. Sorry, that was a bad joke probably, but it's just reality. I'm really stubborn in terms of, I know when I'm wrong, and I'll put my hand up and say, I'm really wrong. But to get to that point, I've got to go through 100 calculations to actually realize I'm wrong, and I need to admit that I am. And stubbornness is okay sometimes, but not too much of it. I'm really giving. Sometimes I give too much. I've learned it in the past. I've done favors for people, some of them financial, and I've never seen a favor back, which never happens, which is a shame, but it doesn't stop me on that type of person. I've done stuff for charity. I help out people. I'm not trying to big myself up, but I'm trying to give ideas to people if they come across it. I've given my house and shower to homeless people before, so they can have like a day just in there to revitalize themselves and stuff. I'm all for that. I love giving, and if that's a word, giving, I'm really giving. And the last one would be I don't know, not motivated or kind of OCD, but I'd say committed. So when I've got something in sight, when I've set myself sight on something, it doesn't matter what I sacrifice, good or bad in my terms. I'm very committed to what I need to achieve. And that's not always a good thing. Maybe sometimes it's needed to achieve what you want to achieve, but it's not always a good thing for yourself just to put it out there. But that's me. That's how I'm built up. They're my 3 things.
Very honest. Last one from me today. Is there anybody you would recommend or like to hear on the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I've just recently chatted with this gent, and I've talked with him previously, and I think he'll be really good just to give an example of how to really act in the industry. It's Josh Arnold from the Bloomsbury Academy. I believe I know he's just taken up a new role as Academy Coordinator there, and he'll be a smashing person to have on.
Superb. I will hunt him down and drop him a message on your recommendations. Superb. Matt, look, it's been absolutely brilliant to speak today. It's been a long time coming. It's brilliant to finally get to speak to you face to face, even though we're thousands of miles away. From myself and everyone at PCT, we want to wish you well. Thank you for everything you do for the British coaches via your social media feeds, and we just hope you stay safe and hope that the sun isn't too hot for you and your electricity bill comes down a bit.
Martin, thanks, mate. Thanks for the really tough and great questions as well. Pleasure, and take care of yourself.
Speak soon, Matt. Thank you. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy the content that we're trying to bring to you. Don't forget, new episodes will be released every Monday. You can find us on the iTunes Store, Spotify, and if you want to see the video, you can see it on our YouTube channel, PCT Football Coaching.